Hey everybody, Ryan here with Insuring on Demand. Sorry, it's been a couple months since I made a video. New job. Whole family was sick in March. It was ugly. But I'm glad to be back and doing another video. Still unfiltered and unedited because I don't really know how to do any of that stuff still. Hopefully these will give better quality here in the future. Also want to give a special shout out to friends and family in Sullivan, Indiana, who just got through a pretty horrific tornado, took out 200 homes in that area. So lots and lots of people affected. Yeah, stay strong, Sullivan, and always thinking about my little hometown in Indiana of, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people, maybe. But today, I really wanted to get down to some really basic points about OAI, or occupational accident. So it's been a specialty of mine for many, many years, especially in the gig and sharing economy. And since I started at Citadel, I'm working with retail agents, I'm working with companies, and everybody still kind of has the same question, like, what is occupational accident? And so really want to get down to the very basics here. And funny story I've got to share with you. So the state of California, actually, I had one of my clients say, hey, we need to let the CPUC let them know that I have insurance for my TNC company. And so I was on the website, didn't see how to submit it. I emailed them. I said, hey, my client has occupational accident. Like, how do I need to notify your division of that insurance, and what do I need to do? And they replied back. They said, what is, and in quotations, what is occupational accident? And so I took a law sheet from Prop 22 and I gave that to them, and I said, well, occupational accident is a law that you enacted that says TNC companies have to have occupational accident. and I pointed out to them and I highlighted the areas and everything. And they just said, oh, well, just let us know when the auto liability is done. It's like, okay. So apparently even the state of California, who requires occupational accident, doesn't know what occupational accident is, which is fair. Occupational accident actually started off as a trucking product. I don't know, back in the 70s, maybe before that even, which is really kind of the first, I would say, wide span gig world. I mean, you had very large companies hiring huge, massive pools of independent contractors to drive trucks, to deliver things, etc. And they just noticed that workers' compensation didn't work for them. They're like, these aren't employees; these are 1099 workers. We want them to have, some type of accident protection, of course, if they get injured, but the workers' compensation doesn't make sense. So if you're thinking the same thing, like, oh, I'm a retail agent with a company that has lots of independent contractors and like 4 W-2s, or you're a gig economy platform and you say, well, why do I have to put a workers' compensation on all these people that are 1099s? This is really for you. But occupational accident is not a couple things. I guess we can start there. One, it's not workers' compensation. So you can't say, if someone has a requirement for workers' compensation, or a state is requiring workers' compensation, you can't get past that with occupational accident because it isn't workers' compensation. But it also isn't an employee benefit. Workers' compensation is. So a lot of times I'm talking about occupational accident being a fit because if you have workers' compensation on your 1099s, that's technically an employee benefit. It's not going to completely throw out a red flag of misclassification, but it does slightly tip that scale. Like, you're providing different employee benefits. Your W-2s and your 1099s have the same benefit. It doesn't look great when you're putting out that misclassification defense resume, right? Occupational accident is like a workers' compensation alternative that I would say is built for 1099s. And we've been doing this in industries all across the board, not just the sharing economy, DNC companies, delivery network companies, or food delivery. But we've been doing this in the light industrial space, the hospitality, food and beverage, events, healthcare, anywhere where there's really a large pool of independent contractors and very few W-2s. That is where you need to be thinking, okay, maybe occupational accident is right for me or my client. And insurance companies are honestly kind of weird with workers' compensation too. I mean, you'll go to one and you'll say, well, why do I have to put workers' compensation? Why do I have to pay for workers' compensation on my 1099 workers? And they'll go through an audit process and say, well, if your 1099s don't have their own workers' compensation, then we're going to have to charge you for workers' compensation on all of them. And if you have a ton, like thousands and thousands of independent contractors, you're looking at an additional premium of tens of thousands of dollars. And so if you're looking at this video and you're saying, well, I have just workers' compensation on my W-2s, my 1099s, they're on their own and we don't require them to get their own work comp. If you haven't gone through a work comp audit yet, you should be a little scared, to be honest with you. But occupational accident is covering very similar benefits as workers' compensation is. It's covering your accident expenses. So if somebody gets injured while working on your platform, while driving for you, etc., they're able to go to a clinic, they're able to go to a hospital, wherever they need to go to get medical treatment. And the occupational accident is going to cover things like their deductibles. It's going to cover their co-pays. It's really this like, hey, we're going to take care of you as one of our 1099s. Here is also some benefits for like short and long-term disability. Like if you can't work for a while, occupational accident typically has a benefit schedule in it to where it's going to pay out X amount of money for so long that gets you back to work, but it'll replace your income for when your 1099s aren't able to work. And so there's those kind of benefits. And I'd say the biggest difference between the two is workers' compensation is statutory, meaning it's heavily regulated. The state is going to say, okay, if you get injured for X, Y, or Z, let's look at our list here. Okay, benefits here, this is what it's going to be. And occupational accident is not statutory. So that's why it's a little more flexible. It's a lot less expensive, typically 25% of the cost of workers' compensation, honestly. And so that's why you're seeing these 1099 model companies go to that. Occupational accident as a flexible product. And what I mean is what we do is use the data that a company collects on their 1099s to build a product around it. A lot of the times, if you're a wheels-based company like delivery companies, what we're doing is a per mile type of coverage. Especially if you're tracking the mileage well, telematics, things of that nature. But if not, I'd say most of my occupational accident programs are hourly. So we can do 30 cents, 40 cents per hour. If you're like, well, we don't really track their hours, we just tell them to go do a job and they get paid X amount, that's fine too. We can do a percentage of payroll. So if they are just getting paid, $100 to go do a job, for example, and you're tracking that because they're getting paid through your platform, we can just say, okay, this is going to be X% of your pay that we're going to take for the occupational accident coverage. Another huge benefit of occupational accident, especially for you as a platform, is you can pass that cost down to the independent contractor. So workers' compensation, you can't. That's an employee benefit. So you as the employer, even if they're 1099s, have to pay for that workers' compensation policy. But a lot of times in the occupational accident world, you'll see companies pass down the cost in the form of a trust and safety fee, a marketplace fee. They'll name it some type of fee that is a line item in the payout of saying like, hey, here's your gross, here's what we took out, and then here's what's remaining out of that. If you're an Uber driver, look at that next time. You'll see those marketplace fees in there. So, essentially you're taking this, if you're covering everybody with workers' compensation right now, you're taking a policy, it's probably costing you $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year And now switching to occupational accident, you can pass down that cost to your independent contractors, and you're paying maybe $500 to $800 in workers' compensation now. I mean, that's a massive swing for your small margin companies out there. And so, hey, if you have any questions about occupational accident, this is going on YouTube, put it in the comments. I'll try to answer there. LinkedIn, DM me, send an email to me. I'll put that in the notes here. But really just working on educating people about occupational accident. I mean, it's required by Prop 22 now in California for TNC and DNC companies. So if you're an insurance agent listening to this, like, a lot of people don't know what this is. This isn't like a mainstream product that a lot of people know about, like a general liability, work comp, professional. This is, unless you're in the trucking industry, something that's really brand new to a whole lot of people. And if you have a client or you're a company with this large pool of independent contractors, want to cover them in some way, or just don't know what you need to do, you talk to me, talk to your agent who can talk to me here at Citadel, and we'll help you, figure those things out. But I mean, occupational accident, people are saying, like, is this legit? Is this real? And I would say, from what I've found, most of these gig marketplaces out there are offering some type of occupational accident benefit these days. And my clients know this too, that like, I'm always happy to jump on calls to educate people. When you tell somebody, well, we have occupational accident on our 1099s, and that company says, what is that? I'm always happy to jump on sales calls, help explain those different things. But occupational accident is really this really, really neat product that not a lot of people are taking advantage of. A lot of agents aren't educated in this, and so they're not telling their clients about it. And a lot of gig platforms aren't learning about it until it's too late. Like, maybe they get hit with this workers' compensation audit, or they get dinged from a state saying like, hey, you don't have any workers' compensation at all. And so lots of things can happen there that, I really don't want you to get into those tricky situations. But like I said, let me know if you guys have any questions about occupational accident. I love it. If you're in the trucking industry, if you're in healthcare, light industrial, like I said, food, beverage, anything like that, let me know, and we'll talk about, can occupational accident be a good fit for you. Another, really thing we didn't talk about is it's usage based. So, I mentioned, we can do it per hour, per mile, blah, 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 blah. And how we administer that is on a monthly report. You just give me, as a platform, all the data from the past month. So if, let's say we did an hourly policy, you would submit an Excel sheet to me, each job, who did the job, what state, what did they do, and how many hours did they work. Sometimes what did they get paid, or how many miles did they drive. And so you, as the platform, have already collected that premium from those line items in your independent contractor, or you can pay it out of pocket as a platform as well. Plenty of platforms do that. But you would just send me that data sheet, the premium that you've already collected, and then that's how they get covered. And in time of a claim, we're just going to go back to the sheet and say, oh yeah, it looks like you were working that day. Really, the one thing about occupational accident, like the one rule, if we're going to cover a claim, were you working at the time that you got injured? If that's a yes, I would say your occupational accident claim is most likely going to go through, unless there's some really weird offset thing. But it's really meant for folks, 1099s that are on the job. It's very transactional. So if they're working on your app in a very transactional way, it just makes sense for them. Especially like, in this gig economy world where people might work one weekend a month, they might work one weekend a year, they might work every weekend for the year. You really need a product that can help scale and be flexible, like this worker, like your 1099 workers are. So, yeah, I think that's all I got on occupational accident. I'm sure I missed something, but hey, get the word out about occupational accident. Ask me lots of questions. Let's have a discussion about it, and let's try to make this a mainstream product so companies out there know what it is, can take advantage of it, and hopefully save a ton of money and protect their 1099 workers, because a lot of times those 1099 workers don't have those types of protections already. It's a huge marketing tool for your platform or gig economy company to say, hey, we take care of our 1099s in different ways, like having occupational accident cover on them. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Have a good weekend. Thank you.